Hi spooky friends, welcome back to Kelly Does Stuff. Today I wanted to show you a platform that I made for one of the pieces in the Carnival section of my display. It is the Scary Go Round. It's a pretty simple platform, but I think it adds some really spooky detail to the Carnival. So let's go.
Okay, here is our Scary Go Round, and the first thing that I'm going to do is trace out the shape of the piece so that way I can put it safely back in the box and use this template to work with as I make my measurements for my platform and my own overall Carnival design. I'm going to create a circular platform out of XPS foam, and this is the foam I typically work with. Now, lucky for me, I actually had a scrap piece of foam in the shape of a circle from a previous project that I didn't end up using. So I am going to use this hot wire tool to get it to the size that I want. This is by Go Change, and I got this tool on Amazon. Right now, I am working on the top layer of the platform. No matter what type of tool I have used to create circles, whether it's a hot wire tool or some type of blade, my circles always come out a little bit wonky. And if you have shied away from creating circular platforms for that reason, I just want to encourage you to go for it. Your circles do not have to be perfect. The bottom layer of my platform is also going to be a circle. It's going to be a larger one, and since I was working with a larger piece of foam, I broke out my hot wire table to make this circle. And really what I'm doing here is just kind of trimming the edges off so that I can go in and kind of clean up the shape of the circle with that original hot wire tool that I was using. The next thing I wanted to do was add a couple of stairs to my platform. You can use a hot wire tool for this, but I will typically reach for a blade for stairs. And if you want a more detailed explanation on how to carve stairs like this, I do have a video on that. All right, we've got one stair down, and I'm just gonna draw out where my next stair is gonna go on the bottom platform. One, because I am so visual and I have to see what I'm literally about to do or I will deeply confuse myself. But then also I'm gonna remove this top platform to make it easier to cut the bottom one, and I just wanna make sure that I'm putting the stair in the right spot. Of course, you do this any way that works for you. Okay, you can see that I don't have the smoothest cut there with the blade, and it is actually possible to get that. Rarely do I have the patience for that, and that's where sandpaper comes in. I'm just going to smooth out any of the really rough, kind of debris looking part of the styrofoam. I don't want it totally smooth because I'm actually going to go in with a rock and add a lot of texture to this styrofoam. So this is just like a little bit of cleanup. So the overall look of the platform is going to be cement. I'm not going to do brick or cobblestone like I normally do, but I am going to rough it up, nick up the edges a little bit just to give it a more weathered, interesting, spooky look. Once I've done that, I'm going to texture it up with a rock. If you don't have a lumpy, bumpy rock available to you, you can achieve this look with some rolled up aluminum foil. Time to paint. I'm going to go with a black acrylic base coat, making sure that I get into all those grooves that we created from our texturing. Once that's completely dry, I'm going to go in with a dark gray, and I want to do a pretty thorough coat on this since the overall finished look is supposed to be cement. But we still want to do that dry brushing technique where we are not getting paint into all of those grooves. We want the black to show through because that's going to add detail to our piece. When that's completely dry, we're going to continue the same technique with a lighter shade of gray and even less paint on the brush. So we're kind of getting all of those colors to show through for some great detail. And for my final painting step, I'm just going to hit the edges of my platform with some white paint, the smallest amount of white. Once I'm finished painting, the platform itself is done. That's all there is to it. But I still wanted to add some fun details to this platform and the display itself. So you're going to want to grab some wooden dowels. And of course, dowels come in several different sizes. Pick the one that works for you. And you're going to want to grab these skeletons from the dollar store. Also, some chain from the jewelry section of Michael's. I bought this chain. It was actually on sale because you could see it had already started to tarnish, which is actually perfect. It's like natural rust. I don't have to do anything to it. The first thing you want to do is pull the heads off the skeletons. Some of them have some extra plastic on their chin that you can just trim up with a scissor and then cut off that loop at the top that's holding them to the twine. Next, we want to cut our dowels, and I like to use this tool for that. I get it at Home Depot. I think you can probably get it at any hardware store. I'm just making a mark where I want to cut it, and be careful because sometimes when you cut it, they do go flying, so maybe you want protective eyewear. This tool does have guide marks for different angles you could cut your dowels at, which I think is really nice, but we want to make sure that we are going to cut this level because we are going to stand these dowels up on top of our styrofoam platform, so we want an even, smooth cut. And it's totally fine if they're not all the exact same size. Once you have them cut, I think I cut about 12, you're gonna wanna paint them black or any color that you want. And you're like, what are we doing? I don't know what we're making. Does anybody know what we're making yet? All right, once our dowels are dry, we want to pop those skeletons on top of the dowel. They do have a hole in the bottom of them, but if you need to make it a little bigger, an X-Acto knife will work great for that. And I don't even need glue to secure these in place. I just pop those dowels into that hole. Make sure you don't make it too big so it'll kind of fit snug. Okay, who knows what we're doing? We are making stanchions. We're gonna put these on top of our platform, and then we're going to use that jewelry chain and wind them around our skeletons. Okay, if you want to, you can measure the distance between your poles, but if you guys have hung out with me before, you know how much I hate measuring. So I just kind of guessed where each pole should go, and I marked it off with a little pumpkin here. And then just to kind of give myself an idea, I did this kind of fancy measuring. That's how much space we have. Oh, pretty similar. Brilliant. That's gonna work perfect. You can do this next part in whichever way is easiest for you. I decided to hot glue my skeleton poles to my platform first, and then I'm gonna go wind that chain around them. So I just move off my little pumpkin marker and do a little dab of hot glue on the bottom and let it cool. And we are good to go. Now you may be wondering, what about storage? Isn't that gonna fall off? Yep, it definitely will. And it's not really gonna ruin your styrofoam very much. And in fact, in the process of setting up my display, some of these did come off. I kind of like that about hot glue. It's not a permanent solution, so it gives you some flexibility if you wanna switch things up from year to year. So when I go to store this, I'll just pull off those stanchions, store it separately, and then when it's time to set it up again, I'll glue them back in place. When it was time to add the chain, I just added a little bit of hot glue underneath the skull and then wrapped that chain around the dowel at the base of the skull. Please be very careful that you don't burn yourself on that glue as you're wrapping that chain around. Now, if you want to, you could add glue to each one of your poles, those dowels. I didn't do that because I'm a very messy hot glue person and I always have drips and strings, and I didn't want any hot glue drips going down each one of the poles. That just seemed like that would be an inevitable thing that would happen for me. And you kind of don't need it because as you wrap it around, the tension will kind of keep it in place. But if you do need to secure it, just add some hot glue. You'll be good to go. And for some reason, I had a little bit of trouble winding this last one here that was back at the beginning. So I could just pull it off, wind it around, and then hot glue it back into place. And see those hot glue strings? That's the mess that I would have on every single one of those probably. And then you just want to take some clippers and clip your excess chain. And that's it. A really simple platform, but I think it augments the piece in a really nice way. This is the piece that I kind of build my Carnival off of, and since most of my Carnival is kind of on a flat surface, I don't do a lot of layers to it. This kind of helps add a little bit of depth and dimension to the overall display. So let's go ahead and see what this piece will look like in our Carnival. Thank you all so much for watching. I just love sharing these videos and projects with you guys. Spooky friends really are the greatest. I hope this gave you some ideas for the types of platforms you want to make for your Halloween display. Please give this video a like and maybe share with some spooky friends who also want to make platforms for their Halloween village. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I would love it so very much, and a huge thank you to everybody who has subscribed. I look forward to see you guys next time, and happy creating!
like the simplest thing you have to say. Ooh, that sounded funny. I made a platform. It's not that hard. Does that sound different? I made a platform. Yay.